Hi, welcome to Full Crazy Town, episode 14. After many months and many times of trying to get on, I'm on. And I'm in a new location, new house next door to my daughter's place. Real happy to be here. Haven't podcast in like a million years, but I do have some stuff written down and I'm ready to go. So let's go. Let's see where I left off. A new film exposes the greatest public health conspiracy of our time. Just as Super Size Me exposed how fast food fueled addiction and disease, this documentary targets the entire food and health industry built to profit from our sicknesses. The same way companies that control our medicines also control our meals, all regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. From the creators of The Truth About Vaccines and The Truth About Cancer, these people return with their most explosive and expose yet. Now, as I kind of recall, this was like an ad, and I thought it was going to be more in detailed or more kind of like include more new information. But I think I've talked about how even RFK Jr. is down on the ultra processed foods and that contain flavor, color enhancers, high in saturated fat, sodium specifically added, sugar, sweeteners. States like New York and New Jersey have introduced similar bills to California's. 40% of Americans are obese. U.S. has the lowest life expectancy in the developed world. 60% have a chronic illness. 50% deal with mental illness. Starting in 1953, two U.S. institutions, health and education, began orchestrating changes via the Department of Health, Education and Welfare, HEW, became Health and Human Services, including Medicare, Medicaid, National Institute of Health, CDC, FDA, and more, making it the costliest U.S. agency, almost $2 trillion per year. God, that's more than the military. Education or propaganda was included in HEW to convince people that smoking is okay. Big business creates healthy products that smoking is okay. Big business creates healthy products. Climate change is a big threat. Vaccines are safe and effective. And the climate change is a big threat came from the countervailing argument came from the fact that we're actually in a cooling phase, that the climate change, Earth warming was all about using millions of years of data instead of billions of years of data. So it's all instrumented, orchestrated to give the government more control, not only over the climate, but over the people, to make them do this and make them do that. Dr. Bernays, who's 93, is the father of public relations, PR, propaganda, appeared on David Letterman's show to push the narrative, psychological warfare, which was how he became Dr. Bernays. He's not really a doctor, but when he just said, well, I can push these psyops and call myself a doctor. Born in Vienna, Austria, 1891, he was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, became convinced that the masses could be manipulated by propaganda and fear. He was hired by the U.S. during World War I to conduct what he called psychological warfare, with a poster stating, keep the Hun out. After World War I, he was kept on because he realized psyops could be used to manipulate citizens. He was hired by the Beech Nut Company to increase sales of bacon and enlisted the backing of 4,000 doctors to endorse his ideas. And that's bacon, ultra processed food. 1929 campaign, Torches of Freedom, targeted women as an untapped area for pushing tobacco. So this is where You've Come a Long Way, Baby. Remember the Virginia Slims ads, if you're old like me. He paid debutantes to smoke Lucky Strikes as they walked in the Easter parades in New York City during the 1920s. Sparked the feminist movement. 1923, women purchased purchased 5% of the cigarettes sold. But by 1929, just a few years, 6 years later, this figure rose to 12%, 6%, 6 years from 5% to 12% because of propaganda and psyops and paying debutantes to smoke cigarettes as they marched in the Easter parade in New York City. Eventually peaking at 33%. And that's probably in the 60s when they put the warnings on the cigarettes may cause cancer. That's when the percentages went back down. But from 5% to 33% before it went down, he introduced planned obsolescence, whereas products had a reduced shelf life. And that occurred to like appliances, I don't know, just almost anything that was a big ticket item was planned was made to go bad after 10 or 20 years, and they wanted to sell more products. He planted the seeds for Netflix when his great nephew planned and promoted movies to push American narratives such as Don't Look Up. Dr. Edmund had defeated the FDA 8 times in court. Edmund Tugwell, part of the FDR's administration, went overseas to Stalin's Soviet Union and Italy's fascist state to learn about centralized government power. U.S. states of Health and Human Services, it's an umbrella agency to many other agencies, such as National Institute of Health. These are unelected bureaucrats who force mandates on the public. Then you have the movement called transhumanism, introduces chemicals and GMOs into the food supply to alter behavior and to make people addicted to their food. Ike warned, not just the military-industrial complex, but he warned of a scientific/technological elite in the same speech that he warned about the military-industrial complex, 1961. Evening news shows are bracketed by big pharma ads. They have deep pockets for influencing U.S. campaigns. Let's see where we go from here. Dr. Mary Bowden was suspended for spreading misinformation about vaccines, specifically ivermectin. 9 out of 10 of the last HHS commissioners have gone on to work for Big Pharma. Early cancers can be detected with a simple blood test, and then AI can be used to design a vaccine that's unique to the individual. I don't know why, but this reminds me of the Brown University and MIT murders. Apparently, those were students and professors, a professor who was into the cold fusion replacement for big oil, as an energy source. And these assassinations go all the way back to, I believe, 2004. There was a professor who was just starting with the cold fusion research and development, and he was assassinated in an attempt to stop it, but others have picked it up. But then, of course, others get bumped off too. Okay. Let's see. Zionists now own TikTok and 1/6 of all corporate media. A blitz of freedom of speech is forthcoming. There's a post about ICE agents wearing masks in plain clothes, black, plain clothes black, and no identifying names and numbers or badges. So it makes me wonder, how do you know they're ICE? Just could be a run-of-the-mill goon squad. But they are grabbing immigrants, putting them into vans, increasing terror and suspicion and fear on the streets. You get people then begging for protection, and then we lose more rights, more freedom of speech, more freedom of expression. Anyway, Sabby Sabs of RBN equates the ICE agents with cops, which equals ever increasing police state. Employees used to make 20 times what the workers' wage. Now some CEOs make 400 times the workers' wage. And I'm kind of jumping around narratives here, because that's just I don't know, it just kind of like in the months since I've last done a podcast. Well, I should mention this. Well, I should mention that. But I am going to get back up, caught up, and then have a more I don't know, continuous narrative and not jump around so much. But I did tune in to Sabby's mutual aid workshop. That's something I'm really interested in, trying to get away from. Just I wrote a book, Full Crazy Town, mainly just trying to get my head wrapped around all of the lies and events starting in about 2015, 16. And I like to kind of refer to them as the 6 gates. You had Russia Gate, Laptop Gate, COVID Gate, Insurrection Gate, Ukraine Gate, Gaza Gate. And these were all like lies that were put out by the Democrats. Supposedly the Democrats supposed to be on the side of the workers. We always knew the Republicans from, Nixon, Nixon, Reagan, now Trump. Crazy people, don't trust them. But then when the Democrats started lying to us, I had to write a book just to get my head wrapped around it. And after I'm caught up with all this stuff, I am going to go back and revisit that book and talk about, kind of update some of the points that I made then, because I need to read it myself. I made a lot of points, a lot of information in there, and I need to refresh my memory, because so many of the things I talked about when I wrote the book 5, 6, 7 years ago, they've come true, and they've gone on to do worse things, kind of like what I talked about the Brown and MIT murders to squelch the cold fusion narrative, which could, we wouldn't have to invade Venezuela for their oil if we had cold fusion and big oil no longer was big. But her mutual aid workshop, it kind of has me working on the homeless issue here in Eugene, Oregon. And I've had a real problem just trying to volunteer. There's a lot of people who run institutions and agencies that, if you don't speak their language, if you're not the right kind of volunteer, it's really hard to even get involved. But I'm not giving up. I'm going to carry on my wayward son. Uh, the Dudes. Let's see. Zion. No. Looked like 2017 looked like Zion. Uh, New York Times reporter helping Jeff Epstein avoid scrutiny, helping Trump too. Who's that? Peter Thiel? No, it was reported. I think that was Jeff Goldberg, wasn't it? Anyway, here's Peter Thiel, Bannon, people from the Obama administration, Democratic National Committee. That's the Hillary and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Then let's see, what was that? 2000. Hillary was possibly having an affair with Vince Foster. That must have been before 2017. But they spend so much time keeping us at each other's throats and encouraging Team Red or Team Blue because they know the veil, if the veil ever drops, the people will really come together. They're through. And so that's why they keep, me from writing my book. They took over my keyboard and tried to keep me from doing a final edit. So I just sent it off with a bunch of typos and mistakes. But organizing against the corporate state, the oligarchs, and the powers that be, that's the thing that really scares them. So they had to use messages like, your neighbor is causing you the problems. Like your unvaccinated neighbor is trying to kill your grandmother, trying to use cultural issues to pit us against each other and trying to make us so panicked and impoverished that we can't even focus on the class issues like income inequality. The fact that other developed nations give their citizens health care and a minimum wage, and they give them a good infrastructure. A lot of them, especially China, has a great infrastructure, virtually no poverty. 85% of the Chinese own their own home. Now, those are admittedly a lot of apartments because they're a huge population, but so be it. And so that's what we've got is the dregs of society. We get the network, as some people call it, the deep state, other people call it, just increasing the culture wars, trying to pit us against each other so that we're too panicked and freaked out to concentrate on the real class issues. Money, 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 money. Let's see. So, like the ruling class, depraved, not just depraved, and they get bored. Let's just, what good is having power and money if we can't just flick it around and screw with the people and try to pit them against each other like a 3D chess game? But they're evil. Like Aleister Crowley evil like black magic and the occult, and just like how Epstein did the underage teenage girls' sexual slavery and exploitation. There's just one step between slavery and then I don't know, child sacrifice. The elites drinking baby blood to try to give themselves eternal life. Black magic, really, really screwed up stuff that most people don't want to even think about. It's so horrible. But we have to because it is real. A long history of sexual degeneracy and aristocracy going together. They say we're a democracy, but we're really an oligarchy that shares many features with aristocracy. And Chris Hedges was the one that first really pointed out that there's two types of ruling class. There's the oligarchs, which are billionaires who want to increase their power. A lot of them are Zionists who want to take over the world, destroy all governments, destroy all religions. If their evil plot is ever discovered, starting in the Middle East, the strategy is to blame the Jews and put the focus on the Jews, not the Zionists, because that's the real problem, is the Zionists, not the Jewish people. The state of Israel is just another settler colonial entity that needs to be destroyed, like all settler colonial entities. Let's see. So they're oligarchies, and then corporatists. The corporatists, like the people who have businesses, they want to keep the ball rolling. They don't want to see the end of society or the total tanking of our economy. They want to keep it going. It's the oligarchs that want to bring about total destruction. And the corporatists would like to keep the ball rolling, but the oligarchs have the billionaire power as compared to the corporatists' millionaire power, 1,000 times greater. There's an unaccountable elite that's so wealthy, so powerful, they get bored and want to see what they can get away with by acting like gods who play with people's lives like some kind of sick game. So it's not just Epstein's circle of friends included. We have Democrats, Republicans, wealthy independents, internationalists, international billionaires, like a cult whose members exhibit such aberrant, what am I saying? Behavior that they bond and become more and more perverse. The more they violate norms, the more they rely on each other not to turn on each other. So that goes for the media too. They want the media to buy in, say, hey, you want to be part of the big club, right? You want to be part, you got to echo our narrative and not listen to those podcasters like Jimmy Dore and the Dude Dissident guys. They're like the, the more they violate norms, the more they rely on each other not to turn on each other. They're like the World Economic Forum slogan, you'll own nothing and be happy, only it's more like you'll own nothing and be angry at each other or those outside of your tribe. So, like, being happy isn't really the oligarchs' goal for us. It's the World Economics Forum, because they know if we're happy, then we won't be coming after them with pitchforks and torches. So you'll be angry at each other, or those outside of your tribe, your circle of friends, your cult. For the Democrats, it's the Democratic Party for the leftist liberals. For the conservatives, it's Trump. Trump is the cult leader. Then you get I don't know who's who's the leader for the Dems. Obama, Democratic National Committee, people like that. But Trump is almighty as far as the GOP goes. Although MAGA is disappointed with him more and more because he campaigns on being the peace pres, and then he's not the peace pres. Campaigns on better infrastructure, and forget about it. Campaigns on better economy, forget about it. So a lot of the MAGAs, especially with the Epstein files, when he flip-flopped on that issue, he lost a lot of support, but he still has those wide-eyed MAGA minions that will never turn their back on him because he owns the liberals. He's not politically correct. We hate the liberals, so we love Trump. Just red and blue warring states fits right into their narrative. Let's see. So there's Epstein files implicated Zionists. Oh, the Epstein files implicated many politicians, oligarchs, and Zionists. And there's a vote coming. Oh, geez. Oh, yeah, to release the file. In fact, today was the day they were supposed to be released. And something like, I think, Attorney General, what's her name, released about 20 names, where there's got to be thousands of them, but she released about 20 names. Most of them had already been exposed in books like Whitney Webb's One Nation Under Blackmail. Anyway, so the truth does not get out. Time bombs about to explode and expose the PDF files. That's what the dissident guys call pedophiles, PDF files, because YouTube will censor them, demonetize them, give them one strike, 1, 2, 3. Plus the ACA premiums did double. The money, the subsidies was not voted on. It did. I think January 1st, the premiums for Obamacare are about to double. Plus, inflation still climbing, Medicaid cuts still making more people poorer than they already were. Why do so many working class people defend the wealthy? Why do they go along with cutting SNAP benefits? I think it's because they want to be part of the groovy in crowd. And they think by trusting Obama and the Democrats that that's the way they can get back at Trump, just the way the MAGA minions trust Trump to get back at the politically correct liberals and the Democrats. It's just such a dog-eat-dog world. So I like Richard Wolff, Professor Richard Wolff, and he had a speech about the Rust Belt. He wanted to know who got hurt the worst: the white males, the Christians, the unionized, angry at the Democrats about NAFTA and GATT. Let's see, who got hit the worst with the Rust Belt? Oh, I know. He's saying who got hit the worst from the NAFTA GATT Clinton's sellout, which created the Rust Belt. Richard Wolff says it's the white males who were mostly Christian and unionized at the time in the 90s. They lost their jobs. That's what they're angry about. We don't have our pride anymore. Now all the emphasis is on other people, because we can't be the main breadwinner. That's when it just tanked the economy, starting with the Midwest, but then going from the white Christian males who were unionized. And so it's not just, Richard Wolff says, it's not just the end of the American Empire, like the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. They all end with people at war with each other, not sure who to blame, not knowing what to do. And as this disease has spread to Europe, and you get the European Union diving and becoming more conservative, you get the UK falling apart, becoming more cracking down on political speech, equating it with political terrorism. Something like the I heard, not this is just recently, not back when I wrote this, but the UK arrests over 30 people a day for political dissent and arrests them. And, goes on your record. They might not serve much time, only like 90 days or 60 days or something in jail, but it's for political dissent. And that means if you are supporting the Palestinian cause, they equate that with political dissent. And the same thing is happening in Australia with the Bondi Beach incident, another false flag incident conveniently happening to the Jewish people, which causes Australia to crack down on speech that supports the Palestinians. And it goes on and on. Let's see. Now, here's what Sabby was talking about. So it's not just the end of the American Empire, it's the fall of Western civilization. That was Professor Wolf's point. Then Sabby goes on to talk about the 35,000 Upper East Siders. These are Upper East Side wine moms, wealthy, bored, easily scared into fearing Zohan Mandami. And he turns out to be a total Zionist anyway. He met with Jamie Dimon of Morgan Chase and backed him up to the hilt, backed up the billionaires, backed up the banks, backed up the war in Gaza against the Gazan people. But the upper 35,000 Upper East Siders, the wine moms, are threatening to move to Hoboken if Mandami is elected. No need there, gals. He's on the Zionist side. And remember, they were thinking that if he was elected, that was going to be the beginning of Sharia law in Manhattan. Anyway, in reality, they complain about anything just to relieve their boredom. Similar to wealthy women of the Victorian age and their fainting couches. They had nothing to do. They were like pampered baby dolls that weren't given any responsibility, were not respected as having a brain. They're just supposed to stay in their parlors and have tea with each other, visiting friends. And they had fainting couches because they were so, their muscles, they never hardly walked more than, a couple dozen steps in a day, upstairs, downstairs, maybe that was about it. And they would just, faint. They would just, probably go with their laudanum or their wine or whatever just to pass the time. And anything to relieve the ennui, extreme boredom. The Upper East Siders are so delicate, so easily panicked. Instead of a fainting couch, they have social media to vent their spleen and their fears and their just total insanity, stupidity, really. So they're not just, again, they're like the corporatists and the oligarchs. They're not just greedy and mean and bored, nothing to do but fuck with the lesser species, those who are beneath them. They see immigrants, of course, as beneath them. And so they want, to get their position back, their status. But the so-called elites are evil, not just greedy, mean, and bored. like the oligarchs and the corporatists and everybody else, the Zionists, they're evil. And I would suggest if you can ever get to the bottom of some of what Aleister Crowley did when in his visits to this country and who he hobnobbed with in England, and that's mostly at the time, that was still the Cecil Rhodes and his pal Milner. They had a secret society. They were behind Rhodesia, the Boer Wars in South Africa, the taking over of the British government through Churchill and war and just spreading their evil all around the world, wherever they could. But there's Ralph Nader. He had a great interview with Chris Hedges, who has a great show and everything. But he came on and said the way to deal with this crisis is to focus on Congress. They need our votes. That's what they want. Besides donor money, they just use that for propaganda and political ads to get the votes. If we would not vote for war pigs, if we only had more people who were anti-war, pro-people, pro healthcare, not warfare, then we could maybe deal with it. Nader says that if we had just 20% of the 535 people, members of Congress, to vote for reasonable things that would help people instead of just helping the business class and the banks and the military and the oil and everybody else that gets it, not the people. No, not the people. It can't go for health care or infrastructure or a living wage or any of these things. If the people who want your vote need to say what they're going to do to get your vote. The votes need to be conditional. We need to summon our members of Congress, our 2 senators and our rep, to town meetings, town halls, where we state the conditions, the demands. And so Ralph went through about 6 of them, all good. Living wage, universal health insurance, crack down on corporate crooks, a fair tax system, channel the money, $1 trillion military budget, at least, into infrastructure, public services, creating many jobs as we improve the infrastructure and public services. We need to empower people so they can take back their sovereign power. He has a couple books. I think I ordered these. Got to check on that. I think I did order these. Breaking Through Power and Unstoppable, the emerging left-right alliance to dismantle the corporate state. So then from the Common Sense Rebel, this was somebody who was online. What were they talking about? Unmasking, they call the network or the deep state the Rusts, just the basic goon squad, like the mafia that has been in bed with our government since the Second World War, Operation Underworld, in my book. For months, the public has been conditioned to see the Epstein story as a political war. A list, a like that's all we have to worry about is Epstein's list. Let's get the list. But actually, it's a network of its own, like I mentioned before, underage girl trafficking, slavery, and worse. And let's see, it's not just the list. It's presented as a partisan spectacle, a left-right cage match that keeps the public staring sideways at each other. That narrative is the final great distraction, because the Epstein-Maxwell network was never a rogue operation, not just Epstein. This sexual blackmail actually started with the mafia in the 50s because they wanted to get dirt on Hoover because he was cracking down on the mafia. And so once they figured out he was a cross-dresser and had a thing for his assistant, and they said, hey, you keep leaning on us, we're going to expose you as a pink feathered boa wearing gay dude. So that's when he backed off of the mafia. So the Epstein network never was a rogue operation. It was never a story of Dems versus Republicans. It was a service, a undeniable, vertically integrated machine that provided access, leverage, operational cover to the most powerful financial actors on earth. And now we can prove who owns it. It's not a horizontal fight. It's a vertical operation built and maintained by the transnational elite, a structure this guy likes to call the Rust. I'm reading the book, what is that called? Tragedy and Hope. And in Tragedy and Hope, it's about the history of, Rhodesia to the UK, to the World Economic Forum, to the United States trying to take over the world, to the Zionists who are taking over the world bit by bit. Anyway, he calls it the Rust. And who are the Rust? BlackRock, Vanguard, the billionaire class orbiting them. Here's the schematic. Pillar 1, the old guard, 1980s blueprint. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Robert Maxwell, he stole 460 million pounds from his own employees' pension fund, enabled by Goldman Sachs, who helped Maxwell illegally dump pension shares. Lehman Brothers were censored and fined after being forced to return some of the stolen assets, but later they went down with the 2008 housing crisis. And the one-liner about that is bankers caused the 2008 crisis, but only, what's her name went to jail? God dang it, why can't I remember this? Because I'm on camera. Anyway, I'm not even going to try. God, what's her name? The home improvement czar. Censored, yes. Stolen, yes. Assets. This was the blueprint. Elite banks acting as operational partners in a massive fraud run by an intelligence-linked asset. Pillar 2, the new guard from the 2000s on. The next generation inherited the model. The new financial elite, JP Morgan Chase, over $1 billion processed from Epstein's operations. He was labeled a treasured customer, and compliance alarms were ignored by JP Morgan Chase from the top on down. That included Jess Staley, who was Epstein's personal defender inside the bank, exchanged hundreds of emails with Epstein and is now accused by victims of direct participation. You also had Mary Erdoes, the bank's private bank head, was warned repeatedly of human trafficking and money laundering, and she did nothing. Deutsche Bank was the post-conviction enabler, immediately adopted Epstein after his sex offender conviction in 2008, knowingly processed Margaret, what's her name? Margaret, the only Margaret, somebody went to jail. Daggone it. I'll probably think of it, and then I'll have to do a whole another podcast about it. Deutsche Bank immediately adopted Epstein after his sex offender conviction in 2008, knowingly processed payments to victims, thousands of victims, and co-conspirators. Clients of the Rusts were included Leon Black of Apollo Global, paid Epstein $158 million for fraudulent services. Others, Gates, Thiel, Bannon, Musk, orbited the same access markets. JP Morgan and Deutsche Banks paid a combined $365 million. Let's see now, what was that? Maybe I had that wrong. Oh, no, together they paid $365 million in fines, not for accountability, just as the cost of protecting the real owners. So that's where, I just hit a key. Did I do something wrong? No, we're still on. Not for their accountability for Epstein's operation, but just in fines for protecting them. Pillar number 3, the vertical link, the boss level. We can now prove that the same entity owns all 3 layers of the machine: old guard, Maxwell era, new guard, Epstein era. The rust atop the pyramid happened in 2 ways. Link 1, personnel, the revolving door. Where did the senior leadership of Maxwell's enabling go? Into the command structure of BlackRock, the core of the rust. A guy named Rick Ryder, senior exec at Lehman Brothers throughout its Maxwell era misconduct. Now he's the chief investment officer at BlackRock, also on its global executive committee. Adebayo, Bayo is his nickname, Ogunlisi. He is the lead director at Goldman Sachs, or he was the lead director at Goldman Sachs during the Maxwell era operations. Now a senior managing director at BlackRock, also on its global executive committee. Link 2, ownership. So link 1 was personnel. Link 2, ownership, the vertical control structure. The Rust owns the banks that enabled Epstein. JP Morgan Chase, number 1 shareholder at BlackRock, now owns about 10% of BlackRock. Number 2 shareholder, Vanguard, owns about 4.17% of the banks. Number 1 shareholder. Oh, the number 1 shareholder, BlackRock 10%, Vanguard. I'm not sure who owns who as far as ownership. Let's see. The Rust owns the clients that used Epstein. Apollo Global, Leon Black's firm, number 1 shareholder is Vanguard. So that must mean BlackRock and Vanguard are the main number 1 and number 2 shareholders of JP Morgan Chase. Okay, that's what it is. So Leon Black's firm, number one shareholder of Apollo Global, is Vanguard, 8%, BlackRock, 6%. A perfect loop. They own the bank, they own the client, they hire the personnel, they control the apparatus. It's the goon squad that controls the world. Call them Zionists, call them corporatists, call them oligarchs, call them what you want. They're slowly, and really not so slowly, it's really accelerated here, taking over of everything. So the conclusion is the schematic of vertical control. Rust owns the banks, JP Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank, the clients, Apollo, billionaires paying for the services, the personnel, Ryder, Ogunlisi, the old guard, leaders absorbed into BlackRock's executive command, the media, CNN, New York Times, Fox, all majority owned by BlackRock and Vanguard, enabling the great distraction. The politicians, Schumer, funded by Epstein and BlackRock, Ron Wyden, my senator here in Oregon, one of my two senators, Ron Wyden, has received over $1 million from AIPAC. He's investing in Epstein's banks, JP Morgan Chase, Deutsche Bank, while receiving funds from the owners of those same banks. That sounds like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. A lot of what the NGOs do, the Gates, all the oligarchs, they just contribute to each other's NGO and then write it off. Hey, I'm a contributor, a charity. I'm not paying any taxes. So receiving funds from those owners. The narrative control mechanism. They bury the vertical story by feeding the public a horizontal circus, the culture wars. So then it's revealed that the loop is visible. The rest becomes obvious. The Epstein-Maxwell ring was never an isolated crime ring. It was deniable, disposable arm of a vertically integrated structure run by the financial elite, which this guy calls the Rust. They own the stage, the cast, the script, while the public gets a puppet show. The Epstein network came from a financial intelligence architecture that started 90 years ago with Operation Underworld. And this article by the guy that talks about the Rust used everything I've been talking about since, we're all the way back to, gee whiz, the Common Sense Rebels, this guy called. And he said, everything that I said, all the pillars, all the levers led up to, now I'll tell you how we got here. Just contribute, and the great secret. Well, Whitney Webb's book was mainly about that. My book was mainly about how the media and the politicians have convinced us that our government has not been compromised by organized crime and Zionists and billionaires and child sex traffickers. So in my book, it talks about Operation Underworld during the Second World War. A lot of before we got into the Second World War, before it was called the Second World War, a lot of the supply ships going from the U.S. to Europe were getting bombed, sunk by U-boats. And so the government knew there must be somebody, the dock workers controlled by the mafia, must be tipping off the Germans which the mafia liked the way the Germans did business. And so it took some doing, but the government got in to find out. They paid more money basically to somebody to rat on the mafia family that was providing the information for the U-boats, to sink them and do away with their system, and provide a secure system for the resupply boats. But that meant a marriage of a government and the New York crime families, the Italian mafia, the Jewish mafia, and somebody else. No, it's another mafia. Who was that? Mayor. Daggone, what's his name? Anyway, it was all part tied in with Batista mafia in Havana, and boy, this is why I have to read my book again. I keep forgetting all this stuff, but I am going to read it again. I'm going to update it. Mainly, Operation Underworld led to mafia connections like Leslie Wexner, who financed Epstein, and another guy, Sam Bronfman, who was the main tie-in between the industrialists and the mafia. And so, again, I'm going to get into it more, but I'm not going to pay that guy to tell me something I don't know, something I already know. So anyway, this is my book. It's what I'm going to be going into the next time I podcast, probably in a month. How Our Government's Marriage to Organized Crime Led to Political Assassinations and a Corporate Coup. And like I said, it was mainly based on Whitney Webb's epic 2-volume novel expose, One Nation Under Blackmail. But I want to read the back of my book here, because it's mainly taken from Glenn Greenwald's words. And what my book really tried to do is to explain how the government, the media, the propagandists, the PSYOP operators, gets into MK Ultra and all the drugs, hypnosis, crazed assassins like Sirhan and Charlie Manson's cult in California. That was to get the hippies away from protesting against the war and to get them into drugs, sex, rock and roll, distracted, peace, love, hippie movement, flowers, love, sunshine, until the Manson murders ended the hippie dream. But I have a little bit of MK Ultra in here, but more has come out about them, and in other books too. Weird scenes inside the canyon, about Laurel Canyon, how drugs are used as weapons against us, talking about how so many of the big stars of the early 60s, the Byrds, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, were compromised. A lot of them were influenced by drugs, money, sex, threats, hypnosis. MK Ultra was all about mind control and making people do what you wanted them to do. So anyway, that was all good. But let me just read the Glenn Greenwald's words here. We have all been oppressed and exploited by the man. So that's why, the tie-dye, the old hippie dream, the man. Everybody knew that back then. By the man, I mean the militarists, the corporatists, oligarchs, politicians, Department of Homeland Security, and the media conglomerates. The ones who champion human rights, the environment, and special interest groups, because it does nothing to address the systematic injustices or the scourge of permanent war that plagues us. Quite a paragraph. Oh, that's one sentence. That's almost like Herman Melville sentences. I mean, it's involved. But anyway, I'll probably read this again when I start getting into the intro in chapter 1. But it goes on. It's an advertising gimmick, a brand used to mask social inequality and imperial folly. It busies liberals with a boutique activism that is not only ineffectual, but exacerbates the divide between the privileged and a working class in deep economic distress. And it was that deep distress, the Rust Belt distress, the decline of the white Christian unionized males that led to Trump being able to exploit those dissatisfied, mostly white males, Christian evangelicals. They're the ones who are all about the return of the Messiah, the rapture. That's when Jesus comes back and the Christians will be saved, not the Jewish people. The Jewish people can be saved if they become Christians. If not, lake of fire. So that's like, wait a minute, really? Is that the way things work? I thought the Jews were the problem. That's what the Zionists want you to believe. The haves scold the have-nots for their bad manners, racism, linguistic insensitivity, and garishness, while ignoring the root causes of their plight. The have-nots are getting tired of being disrespected, so they're voting for anyone, Trump, who's not a Washington insider, because the insiders have proven themselves to be corrupt militarists intent on following their hegemonic goals to the ruination of us all. Us all. Us all. Ruination, ruination, ruination. Well, that only took an hour. That's about what I hoped it would be. Thanks for anybody who tuned in. I am going to keep up with current events. I mean, it's so crazy now that I could write a second book called Fuller Crazy Town, and then Fullest Crazy Town when we're on the brink of Armageddon, which I guess it could get worse. I mean, if you think it's bad now, it can get a lot worse. And here's hoping it doesn't. Maybe if we use some of Ralph's ideas, some of Sabby's ideas about think globally, act locally, that really is the solution. Maybe there is some hope, but the oligarchs seem intent on just ruining everything and then picking up the pieces for pennies on the dollar, while we all, I don't know, go at each other's throats in a ever increasing downward spiraling death dive. So here we are. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Solstice to anybody as we head into 2026. I'm hoping for the best. I'm still trying to be optimistic. Still trying to be engaged. Still trying to learn from my mistakes and the mistakes of others so that we can attend the University of Adversity, as I like to call it. It's been called before. And learn from our mistakes, try to keep on evolving, growing, fight the power, do your best, have fun, and take care of each other, because our politicians sure ain't doing it. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks for anybody who did tune in, and stay strong. As Russell Dobular of the Do Dissidents podcast likes to say when he signs off, courage.